La 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 tita.
In this video, we're going to talk a little bit about the difference between groups and components, how to group objects and components together, how to edit them, and why they are so important to have. So I'm going to draw two boxes. Here's the first one. I'll push pull that up. Just give it some kind of three-dimensional quality. And I'll do the same thing just to kind of make it a little bit easier to see. I'm going to make it a little different profile. Push pull that up as well, and there we've got our two shapes. I'm going to triple click on this object, then I'm going to select move, and I'm going to move it from this corner, and I want it to actually touch the object at that corner. So now I have the two objects together. Now if I click off of it and then I triple click on that object again, you'll notice that it actually selected this first object as well as the second object. Seriously, did it really do that? Let me try it again. 1, 2, 3. Yes, it did. So it's an inherent property in SketchUp that anytime two objects touch, they glue together. They become like one object. So I'm going to Control Z to separate them. And here is how we can allow these two objects to touch without gluing. We're going to group them together. So I'm going to select this object, triple click it. I'm going to right click, and I'm going to make it a group. Now it doesn't look like anything happened, but as soon as I click on the object, you'll notice that the whole thing highlights. The faces might not highlight, but you can tell that the edges have highlighted. So if I click move, you can see that the whole object goes together. It's got some different properties to it now. Whereas if I try to do that with this one, just click it once. Oh yeah, see how different that kind of behaves? Even if I triple click it and move it, it still looks different than when I just can click and move on this object. So that is how you can tell that they are grouped together. So I'm also going to be grouping this object to demonstrate that one more time. I'm going to highlight all of the object. This time I used a selection window. Right click, make a group. Doesn't look like anything happened, but you can tell that the edges are highlighted and the faces are not. So that tells me that it is a group. And now when I do move and I click on this corner and I move it to this corner, and they're touching, and I can still do the move command, and you can see that they move separately now. So this is the best way for you to use SketchUp, is once you create an object that you want to use in your project, that you go ahead and group it. The other option that you can do is called a component. So I'm going to draw another object. Let's do something like this. And I'm going to push pull that up. And just to make this even more different, I'm just going to use the pencil tool. And I'm going to create two faces, and I'm going to push pull one of these faces just so that you can see something a little different. Perfect. Alright, this time I'm going to triple click, right click, and make component. This time I get a little window that pops up, and I have to kind of fill some information out. So I definitely need to give this component a name. I highly suggest that you name it for what it is: sofa, chair, even chair 1 or living room chair, something along that line. I'm going to just name it L shape. I don't necessarily have to write a description, but if you feel the need to do that, if you're working on a project that maybe has a lot of different furniture, this might be a helpful way to distinguish between the two of them. Then I want to look at this glue to area, and I can choose whether it glues to another object or not. I can choose if it glues only to horizontal surfaces or vertical surfaces or just slope surfaces or any surface. For the most part, I usually choose none. And then always face camera could be an option, but for the most part we don't want our objects to rotate just because it's going to be looking at a camera, and we're going to get into the camera views at another video. But basically camera videos create perspectives, and if we want the object to always face the camera in perspective, that means it's probably going to rotate within the room. The one object that you might want to put always face camera to are people. We call them Entourage. So like Bryce, the little guy that was at the beginning video, it would be good to have your people facing camera at all time, no matter which camera that you're looking through. I always leave the check on replace selection with component, and then I hit create. So now you'll see that the selection box actually kind of comes out to encompass the entire shape, so even the space kind of located within. It's a lot like a group. I can still move it separately, and I can even move it like to where they touch here, and they are separate, so I can still move this guy if I wanted to, like bring him out a little bit. They're still separate, but what component does is if I make a copy of this, move, control, bring it out. If I edit this, it will edit this one as well. So I'm going to right click, edit component. This is how you can go about making changes to your components. And then let's say I'm going to offset this face up here just a little bit, and I'm going to use the selector to select that, push pull tool just to bring it up, see how it actually changes the other one as well. Whereas with groups, they don't do that. They're not linked to each other, but components are linked to each other. So as soon as I'm done, I just hit enter, or actually I'm going to hit select and kind of click off to end the edit component, and you'll see that I have two components that are separate from each other. Now if I try to do that with a group, I'm going to move this one, well, let's manipulate this square right here. I can right click and I can edit group. So that's how you edit. I'm going to make a copy first before I do anything. So copy, move, control, make a copy. And I'm going to edit this group, offset, kind of do the same thing. Select the face, push pull tool up, but see how it didn't change the group? It will only do that with components. So the difference between group and component, groups will allow you to block objects together so they don't glue to other objects. Components are the same as group with the extra added feature of being editable and linked to other components that are the same. So for instance, the reasons why you might want to just create a group is if you have a single piece of furniture that's not similar in your project to any other furniture that you have, whereas like dining room chairs, for instance, should look the exact same. So maybe you just want to make one a component, create many copies of that, and that way if you edit any of the dining room chairs, they're all going to update as well.
la la la